Okay. Hello. Welcome to the stream. And I have a special guest who I have placed in an awkward spot in this, but it's Biblaridion.
Hello.
Yeah. Um, hello, King Pengu. Let me put the chat up here and see is this chat widget working? Okay. People say things in chat, so I know if the thing is working. Okay, but so Bib is here because I just need somebody to why why am I hearing myself still? Hold on. Let me
Hello, Maddie.
actually.
And Tinglish.
Hi, hi, Maddie. Okay, that was wrong. There we go. Okay. Um, every Lindo becoming the light of God himself when you're
Yes, I did have some
streaming.
trouble because this desk that I'm sitting at is positioned right in front of this window, and it's it's really not even that sunny of a day, but just when I turned on my webcam, it was just blazingly bright. It looked like that scene in The Two Towers when Gandalf presents himself to the Fellowship. But I had to. The only curtains that I have are incredibly flimsy, and they do a very bad job of actually blocking the light. So I still look like I'm kind of bathed in this sort of celestial radiance. But I guess that's kind of
Well,
fitting
that's
for Faye.
that is fitting to represent your radiant presence as the god of speculative biology.
I would not dare give myself. I am merely a humble enthusiast.
But not really speculative biology, but real biology is what we are doing right here. Let me actually let me come in with my regular profile so I can actually see. Okay, so let me go, and I'm 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 pulling things up. I don't want to be like um. Okay, let me. Can I see the page itself? Let me see the page itself, and then
Hello, Logan, and Liam a priori, and Nemo.
yes. Okay, put your name into Sylvan. So, a long time ago, as in like over a year ago, I made this post for all patrons to say, hey, I'm going to put your name into Sylvan. It can be a name of an animal or a plant. I have reserved these names for my daughters, and then the rest of them you can choose. And there are a couple that came in late. There, but I but most of these I have given to Bib ahead of time. And what Bib is going to do is he's going to sort of help me like check out like facts about these animals to make sure that I get them like coming from the right put into the right class, since like there's the classes encode whether they're herbivore, predator, decomposer, right? And also whether what of the four dialects are most likely to come from, because like we are we are focusing now, we're not doing the Koine anymore, but we are focusing on the dawn and dusk dialects. However, if you have an animal that's like primarily nocturnal, it might be more common to like draw it from night. Or there's other things like those four courts are also associated with like seasons, and phase of the moon probably isn't going to matter, but like also like thematic associations if their activity levels are not like clear cut. One thing that we're going to be dealing with is that my categories look super clear cut, but the real world is messy, and we'll have to like have some ideas in we'll have to work around some ideas to like see like, do we want to like break rules or adjust things in order to like make certain things make sense. Okay,
I do have
so
some questions about the sort of how scientific of an approach we're taking. I mean, scientific might not be the best uh, choice of words, but in the sense of I know these Fae have like a supernatural knowledge of just the natural world, and so how
yes,
much of this categorization is based on that?
so the so yes, they have supernatural knowledge of all living things, and basically that means I can make a basic root out of any animal anywhere in the world, right? Because they all of them exist in fairy somewhere. They would be familiar with them. The they also naturally know. So their classes are autotroph, herbivore, predator, a decomposer, which includes also parasites and some kinds of like symbionts, and then we have inanimate and celestial, which nothing's going to fit into anyway, right? So the the deal with that is like they know their behavior, they know their patterns. Different different courts, because they are day, dawn, dusk, and night. They will be more familiar with animals that are within their like remit, like that would be like in their areas. And the other thing is the another important thing I will say is maybe they know what animals are related, but they do not care about cladistics. That is a thing that I set for myself just to not drive myself insane. Because if I tried to make all any of this based on like cladistics, then I would like make a word and then have to change it in like 2 years because somebody found that this is actually more related to this, right? So like we can consider cladistics. Like there are times when like I would make unrelated things different names just because like snakes and legless lizards are going to have separate terms because they behave differently and they're structured differently, right? And it's sort of a case by case basis, but we're not going to hold ourselves to say, okay, we're going to separate species that are not related.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Logan, yes, you are resynced. So let me I think I have this all on my notepad. I think I have the names on my notepad here so I can. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. my notepad has my Notepad plus plus has a bunch of like nonsense in it that we don't need to be distracted by. So I'm closing things out, and we'll just get the list. And so let's jump to the list here. And then, so another thing is Artifexian Edgar actually chose Penguin, but somebody beat him to it. So Penguin's going to go to somebody else, and Edgar's going to get the Great Auk, which is an unrelated marine bird that is like very similar to a penguin. In fact, it was what we originally called a penguin before we discovered the Antarctic penguins. It's extinct, but in your D&D world, maybe you have great auks, or maybe they just still exist in the in fairy because time is weird.
Well, the Scottish cryptid, the boobry, one of the ideas, it might have been inspired by the Great Auk, I think, is one idea for it.
Yeah.
So maybe there are
And
similar Great Auk boobry fey creatures. I don't know.
yeah. So let me just to we're not necessarily going to start with that, but I can give you like, yeah, we can give you like images of it. Like, it looks a lot like a penguin. The wings are a little different, I think. The wings are structured a little differently. I don't think penguin wings have like are more or don't like bend like that, I don't think. But and the beak and stuff are different, but it's very much like a penguin because it evolved in a similar way to lose flight and gain the ability to swim really well. And
The family Alphidae.
yeah, the genus name is even Pinguinus, which is interesting.
Yes, I was going to say. Yeah, and I was briefly confused because the family Alcidae, Alces is the genus name for moose. So I thought there might have been some mistake, but no. It's apparently a separate group of birds, also called the Alcidae, unrelated to Alces.
Definitely not related to a moose. That would be weird. Okay, off-brand penguin. Yes, off-brand. Well, these are the original penguins. There's a YouTube channel called Clint's Reptiles, which I recommend for people who are interested in biology, and he did a whole thing on penguins, and he decided to call the Antarctic the southern penguins false penguins because these guys had the name first. They should be the true penguins. But anyway, I mean, we could start with the Great Auk. We could start wherever you want. There's somebody who came in later to say they wanted to be marigold, which the class is easy on that. That's autotroph. It's a flower. But I need to figure out when it like blooms. But I mean, we could just start with the Great Auk since we have it pulled up. Anything?
Well, I did have a question about penguins. Because
yeah.
Was it any specific type of penguin, or was it just penguins in general?
So, and this is one thing I initially was thinking about whether to give these two people who requested penguins different species, because I know there's a number of different species of penguins. But I don't know. If I feel like I want one word that covers all penguins, and then we can have like compounds or derived terms that cover different species, because penguins, like, their size is different, but they all kind of look very similar. I can pull up Wikipedia for penguins.
just the thing that occurs to me is that for penguins that live below the Antarctic Circle, then that's going to. I'm not sure how that would jive with the dawn, noon, dusk thing if they experience, seasonal, what do you call it? An entire season of daylight and an entire season of night.
That is a very good question, and I have been thinking about that in regards to uh, like how fairy works, and also like how now we're not assuming Earth. We're assuming some kind of Earth-like planet that you're playing TTRPGs in, right?
Mhm.
But like the poles have sort of a weak association with night, be, just because you get less of the sunlight there. Um, there is also, because of the way daylight works in the seasons, though, actually, as you get closer to the poles, also the twilight fae are more powerful because there are. This is something I learned as I was working on this. Like, twilight is actually longer. The period of twilight is actually longer the closer you are to the poles. At the equator, like, you get an almost immediate transition between day and night. But like as you go towards the poles, you get longer periods of twilight, and also you of course get periods of twilight that do not actually transition, which is translating that to fairy. That is the points where that is also the points where within fairy you can travel between dawn and dusk, but you cannot directly travel between day and night. You have to go through the twilight areas.
Okay, so that.
Okay, Mateus is here to fab up the
Hello,
stream.
mate. So, at least to my mind, that seems like a dusk, like a sort of compromise between the light and the dark. So I would say, like,
Yeah, I mean that is possible. I think maybe dawn and dusk would have their own terms. My question is, are they more active during a certain time? I assume they're more active during the summer, right?
so I looked into it, and from what I can gather, the sort of consensus is that they don't really have a any kind of regularity in the times at which they're active. They are largely considered cathemeral, is the term for it. So
Is that
yeah,
how
I
it's
don't really know. I think it's cathemeral. It's from the Greek,
okay?
from
Okay,
kathemera, which is every day or all day.
okay. They don't. Okay, that kind of makes sense. They don't. They don't like hibernate during the winter or anything, do they? I think that's only a
No,
mammal thing.
not that I'm aware of. They definitely don't
Or
hibernate, and they
yeah.
don't have any
So
kind of equivalent period of dormancy.
okay. So they're not nocturnal, diurnal, or crepuscular. So based on this, I think I will work from the assumption that they that probably dawn and dusk and night will have their own terms for penguin that are all related. They'll all go back to the same middle fey root. Day, maybe not, just because day is a little bit weaker than night in the polar regions, just because the sun angle is lower. I think that's where I can go with that, and then that means that we're not like borrowing anything. We're just gonna go with that. So if we go back to our list of names, so the name is Jenny. Let me IPA that just to so for in English that would be the Jenny. So now I have to figure out, like, how does that translate? Let's see, how does that work in like Elder Fae and Middle Fae, and how can I make something that sounds kind of like that? Now, one thing that helps me. This ends in an I, and penguins are predators, right? They just eat fish,
Yeah, they
right?
are almost exclusively, if not entirely, piscivorous because they really don't have very many other options where they live.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we're missing some South African penguin that eats that eats plants, but I'm guessing that they all eat fish because I mean they're marine and they live in a place where it's mostly fish that they could get to.
Yeah.
I am glad that we don't have anything that is a fish or that like lives that is like an ocean thing that's like feeding on plankton, because that gets complicated in terms of like what do you actually classify it as.
Well, I believe it was today, you mentioned in your Lexember short that you were thinking about how to categorize oyster.
Yeah, because like oysters are just filter feeders, they just feed on like plankton, but that plankton would include phytoplankton, zooplankton, and like detritus. So
Mm.
I think I might give them decomposer just because they have a role of cleaning the water in a way, but you
Mm.
know
This is
the
what
the ocean.
I'm sort of wondering with the where the class distinctions are, how much is sort of flavor and how much of it is like scientifically rigorous.
Right, it's sort of I would say that if you can make a clear distinction, like a lion is clearly a predator, right? Sometimes they do some
Mhm.
scavenging, but they primarily hunt for food, right? So if it's a clear thing like that, then you put it in a thing. A horse, maybe occasionally they opportunistically eat meat, but they primarily are eating vegetable matter. But like with a lot of things in the oceans, I think cetaceans are all predators, even though some are filter feeders, they're feeding on like tiny little shrimp on the krill, which are
Crowley,
animals.
yeah.
So I would still call them predators, but like there are a lot of and there's a lot of gray area with omnivores and with things in the ocean that just eat whatever like floats into their bodies, and it'll be sort of a case by case basis on those kinds of things.
Mhm.
So yeah, one thing I will say as we get into this, I is that it's important to say that. So I have the class that's decomposers, parasites, and like certain kinds of like passive symbionts. That class is not pejorative. It is not like considered lower. All
Mm.
the living things are sort of like equally. There's not really a hierarchy because of the phase affinity for living things. They wouldn't consider it that way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And is there the similar sort of parity with the different? It's not like the dusk or night dialects are considered like darker in the sense of being like more pejorative or more evil or what have you.
Uh it's sort of like what you generally expect with the fairy lore generally, both in TTRPGs and out, is that like any of them from any group could be dangerous or they could be playful or anything. And there's sort of a general bias of like, yes, those from the night maybe are a little bit more overtly dangerous or something like that. There are other things that I will reveal later that will also feed into that. But yeah,
Okay.
generally, like I'm not sticking alignments. I'm not sticking the traditional D&D alignments on the Fae. I kind of think alignment is kind of dumb unless you are applying it to like the actual like outsiders like celestials and devils and demons.
I could
For
go
the
on a
Fae, it's
whole long rant about alignment, but I will save that for another time.
yeah, we don't have time to both complain about the alignment system, but we'll just go. Well, noun classes are always based on culture. The Fae are meant to have perfect scientific nature knowledge too. Yeah, scientific. So perfect scientific nature knowledge. I would say they have they have perfect knowledge of nature, but their priorities are such that they might not completely bend to our modern like scientific ideas. Mateus. It's like, you know, okay, so let's work on this. So where were we? Let me figure out where I am again. Let me get into this mode in Firefox so I can work on that. So I'm going to import the changes to Middle Fay and the changes to Dawn and Dusk because that's what we're focusing on. I can work out a name from Night later if I need it. But and then let's clear this out. So Jenny, how am I going to get Jenny? I think there's a couple of ways I can go about this. Let's see if I just have kin and then I just put the singular class 3 suffix here. That is for predators. Kanjik. Oh, I don't know if that's going to work. That's not because that is going to become why that is. I'm going to have to change my sound changes, but yeah, kanja or kinja. So maybe if we have if we go here Kionik. The stress is not going to be right. Chai. Oh. Chaji. Because, so I have a rule that has N changed to change to a glide, and then that does things. So I don't really. This might work. I don't know if I can. I don't know when the degemination happens. That might. Jinji. Okay, Jin. This is gonna have to be it has to become Jinji. But let's see what happens when we put this in dusk. Jinji. Jinji. Okay. Why is it saying Chich? Oh. So I need to see, is there something that becomes N? I don't think anything in my sound changes will turn this into an N. Let me pull up. Let me actually pull up the night sound changes. And maybe if we source it from night, then we can get something Jinyi. Let me try out a few different options here. We can try it also without this I in the root. That and then Jinja, Jin. So I think maybe the closest thing we can do is if we actually source it from night, we can have Jinyi. Just checking these, because these all get a little too far from Jenny for what I would like. Another option I could do is maybe if this was a long E, if this was a long A, does that change how this works? Because that might be less susceptible to like the raising effects. That's the problem, is you end up with I or already in middle fei. Jinyi and Jezi, Jinja. Definitely don't want it to become an Nja. Jinji. Okay, last option is what if I said this is weird dialect loan and it like just specified that it actually still had an A in middle fei. So dawn, of course, is still going to raise that. Is dusk going Genji, Jin, and night Jenny. I think this is So if we it depends on how far we want to go. We could say that this is like a loan in middle fei from a dialect that didn't do the raising, and it becomes Jenny in night, and then that, I think that is the best option because of just the way that would work out. So yeah, I think I like that option the best. Now this is a
This is one of the reasons why I don't do very many words named after people in Takvamir, just because the phonology is so restrictive that just a lot of people's names would just become completely unrecognizable.
yeah, it's and the thing is like I decided to do this before I knew anything about the phonology of Sylvan. So it's kind of gonna it's kind of gonna be weird anyway. So let's see. I just need to go get the yeah, noun root to lexergy. Let's put this okay, I need to actually I can't do it this way. I need to okay, so because I'm doing this in a weird way, what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to take this Gini, plug it in here, and change it to predator. And this is just to get the full paradigm done, and then we'll adjust in middle fay to give ourselves the root that we want, and then go into middle fay, and just as a reference we have that, and then replace all of these I with a a a a a a. I don't need that, and then apply. Oh, did I put this in the wrong place? Oh, we're doing this through night. So Jenny, Jennifer, Jenny, Jennifer, and that actually this is going to be these are going to be the four forms, because the locative this is animate, so we're going to drop the locative, and this is going to become the accusative. So I think that's good. Okay, so my next step, I just get to document all of this. One thing, I used to do paradigms like this in Dukaga, and then realized that it's all agglutinative, and I have like two sound change rules I have to apply, and that I just automatically can predict almost all of them. There's just a couple of words that are irregular. But for Sylvan, I do actually have to generate all of the forms, because there's all kinds of stem changes and stuff going on. You need different levels of effort. So where is Elder Sylvan? I have to go all the way to the beginning and put the Elder Sylvan root Kieni, which does not have a class suffix attached yet. And then we get that Kieni, and I'll leave it open what that actually means in Elder Sylvan. Maybe it meant something different. And then we get make sure that I get the right thing for here. We get to the middle fay, and then we need this 1 for Middle Fey. And by Middle Sylvan, Middle Fey, it did mean actually penguin. Let's etymology. Kiani, and then there's
Hello,
a lot of
Karas.
like weirdness. What? Say what?
I was just saying hello to Karas.
And then we have, yeah, and so this is a class 3 is predators, and then penguin. Already met penguin by this point. And then I guess I will put in the knight 1. We'll put in the knight 1. I need to figure out how to custom sort these things because this is not conducive. We'll put in this knight form, and then I'm going to okay, why am put in the knight form. This, and then I don't need a pronunciation because I haven't done romanization for this. So verb 3 penguin, and we'll go ahead and grab all of the forms. This is my whole process. I don't know how exciting this is to watch, but this is what I do.
Well, I'm busy reading up on great orcs, and if anyone is interested, Wikipedia has a very both interesting and also morbid description of the extinction of the great orcs because it tells the story of the last breeding pair and how they were killed by two people from Iceland. It's
Oh,
quite graphic.
oh, goodness. Okay. Now, now, now we need to figure out how does this translate into dawn and dusk, the ones that we're working on. So if we and then go here, I will copy this information. I'll copy all of this stuff. Can I copy everything at once? No, I have to copy the title separately. And then wait, and then put that here. And I can copy so I'm going to copy paste. We're going to have a pronunciation here. So dawn, this will just be that African exists. That's fine. I just need to Romanize it. How do we do that? It's no. Nope. I hit the wrong thing. Jen. So. Jen. And then neither of these have geminates, so we can de-geminize it. And So that's assumed to be long. The question is, do I want to keep... Okay, I think we actually got pretty close. We could have voiced it. If we could actually go even better, and we can voice this. And then we can just go, yeah, so, and this is from night. Yeah, Jenny, and we'll just go back through the whole thing and have it have been voiced the whole time. Don't mind me, I'm retconning. Control H. Replace with. And go ahead and put it in here. And middle fay would have been with G, and then it would have been G all the way down. And then we actually get, that is as close as I could possibly get. Is, let me, if we can find where it is now. Yeah. Yeah, Jian Yi. So that would be pronounced as T. And then Jian. And we will leave that without any tone. And then, yeah, all of our forms, of course, all of these forms are going to be this. Jian do I want that to become tonal? That's a question. I think Jian Yi Jenny. No. Is that right? Jenny Fai. Jenny. Okay. I'm not sure why that happens that way. Oh, I know. Pow. Foul. Fi. Okay, yeah. Okay, and then we can copy most of this to dusk, and let me see. I don't think it actually has to change at all in dusk. I don't think this has any... I have not encountered this before, but this seems like this will work equally well in dawn and dusk, phonetically, which is cool. It's another like tell that this is a loan word. So we're just gonna say that they're associated with night because they're polar creatures. This happened to be borrowed from night. Maybe they lost their original words for penguin, or maybe I can assign them. Why is this table not becoming a table? Okay, there we go. So So we get in dawn and dusk. Who was it? Tabby suggested this for your friend. So it's very close to Jenny. It's Jenny in both dawn and dusk. And this actually should be final stress on both too. Which so that's when if I can remember how to type stress marks with my keyboard. Final stress, but no tones because night doesn't have tones. Okay, so that's one done. So
Cool. Only
where did you want to
8
go
more to go,
next?
something like that.
Yeah, well, there's a few. Soten's I'm going to have to do on my own because Soten just described a new creature that I'm just going to have to create.
Oh.
So this is done.
I've just been doing some research in the meantime, and yeah, I don't know what order you wanted to get to things, but I was looking up about painted turtles, and this was
Oh,
actually related to a question I was going to ask about, again, to do with just the exact categorization of things. But in the case of ontogenetic niche shift, when an organism changes its diet over the course of its life cycle, so like painted turtles tend towards carnivory when they're young, but as they age, they take up an increasing portion of their nutrition from plants. So would they be better classed as predators or herbivores, or could you have a situation where the same root in the predator class specifically means young painted turtle, and in the herbivore class means old or adult painted turtle?
okay. This is a very good question. And in the case of painted turtles specifically, I am leaning towards a transition from the I'm actually leaning towards a transition from predator to herbivore class. The reason I say that is because this is my daughter Fifi wanted this for her name, and the painted turtle. We can actually just go ahead and jump to that. She got interested in painted turtles because we went to the zoo and there was a little baby painted turtle, which, according to you, that would be a predator. They do hunt right for their meat, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they eat fish.
So, and we need a ladybug, which I. So this is the. So I'm thinking. So we're using their Chinese names because we used English names in Ndekaga. So, Fei. This name will also work better in Predator class because we'll have the E ending. What is. Let me. We are not going to get the tone correct on this because, well, we might be able to approximate, but let me put this in brackets because it's not actually phonemic. Fei and I'm just gonna use chow numbers because I don't know. It would be 5-1. I think it's fourth tone. Fei. I should ask my wife. Baby. Phoebe. Fei. Wang Ke Fei. The Fei. It's fourth tone, right? Baby? Okay. She's coming, but I think that's correct. So maybe so what is our activity level? If I can justify this coming from dawn, we could match a fourth tone better because we would have the low tone on the end. But I don't want to. I don't want to juice it too much.
Let me just look up. Because they're mainly in the temperate regions of the US.
Yes, this is the advantage of saying that Fae just know all animals in the world because we got stuff from North America, we got stuff from like Africa and Asia and Europe.
Ooh, it specifically says on Wikipedia the painted turtle is active only during the day. It very rarely says things in such black and white terms. But I mean, that does make
Only
sense for a
during the
reptile.
day. Okay, day also works because day also has a low tone at the end. Only during the day. So we're going to be pretty. So for diurnal animal, we're going to be pretty strong on saying that this needs to come from the day chord. Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's see how I can get. Now, the way to get. I have too many things open and I have to go and find the thing. So, we have documented all of this, yes? Let me just make sure before I go that I document like the middle Fey forms night and okay, I need to actually get this let me turn these into G's so that we get it right, and then document that in those forms in middle Fey because I might need. Wait, okay, no, I just do it from there and then deal with that. And middle Fey had all of these, all of these. So okay, now we're ready to go and get rid of all of this, get rid of all of this nonsense, and we can start looking at. So if we have Fey, so the way that you get to a fricative is with an aspirated stop, which I mistyped. See if we maybe if we do it long. Oh, why is there an error? I typed I put an L in there instead of a pipe. That's annoying. That's user error. So we get fake, and then okay, duplicate tab. Let's get the day sound changes. And I have too many versions of these. What is the last? I think day 10 is the last one. Okay. Fee. Oh no. Because we got raising happening all the time in day. Don't mind that. So, what can we do? Wait, did I? Where am I? Okay, I need to lock it. Figure out what's okay. So see what happens if we get that. Oh, that may be. That may not turn out right. Piai. Okay, yeah, because we're getting. So what did we have before? Let me. Let's just try a few different permutations. We're just trying to get the singular to work right. Yeah, yeah. Just put great ox in your world just because. Yeah. So let's get a few different variations. Okay, we cannot do any kind of co-articulation here because that will make this not an F anymore. However, if we do this, then we're never getting that A vowel, which is not that bad, but I would kind of prefer to get something else. Let me think on this. Let me go through the day sound changes and see what can turn into an A vowel to see if we can engineer it to the point where we get so ash becomes A, but how could we get ash? Oh, by the way, what is the dawn reflex of? Okay, I need to. I realized that I had this situation. Let me go through this properly. This is the word for Fae themselves, and let's, because I don't want it to clash with that either. Fae by default are a predator class, although like there could be like dryads would be like autotroph, and there's gonna be different things. So I want to, because these, okay, so the day one becomes phi.
That's interesting, Mateus. Is the world a version of our own world? Is it like an alternate history kind of thing, or is it just a completely separate world that also happens to have the same sorts of megafaunal clades?
Oh, more megafauna surviving into the Middle Ages.
There's one way you could do that. I'm just coming up with stuff off the top of my head, but like, yeah, if you say that the equivalent of the Pleistocene wasn't quite as severe, because even though like human activity was definitely a very big driving cause for the Pleistocene extinctions, the climate fluctuations certainly didn't help much. So if you could make that less extreme, that's one way to justify it. Or you could say that humans um, either spread across the planet just more slowly, or there were certain parts of the world that humans didn't make it to until relatively late in their history. So there were these sort of refugia, these pockets of landscape that preserved
Yeah.
the older fauna and allowed them to survive. You know, something along those lines.
That's that. I was actually thinking about that. Maybe you could have one continent that humans didn't get to until very very late, like get
Hmm.
it fairly isolated. It couldn't be an island because islands are too fragile. But if you had like a whole continent that,
Hmm.
unlike our Earth, we had land bridges and stuff, so that people got even to the Americas pretty early. If you had one that was more isolated, it would be easier. You could have like a giant like Pacific like ocean and a small continent in the middle of that so that people couldn't get it into it until like maybe 2 or 3 thousand years ago, whenever the Austronesians got to all the Pacific islands, right?
Hmm. Sort of like the equivalent of what South America was until 2 or 3 million years ago when it collided with North America. Because for most
Okay.
of its
Yeah.
history, it was like a pretty much an isolated, not island continent, but very much biogeographically separate from the rest of the world. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you could have an equivalent of that.
Or I mean, kind of like Antarctica. The only thing is Antarctica is cold, so no megafauna is gonna survive there. I mean,
Mm.
it's polar, so unless you have a significantly warmer world, you're not gonna get much more than what is there now, right? So this, I won't ever have a clash because the word for Fae, it seems like everywhere becomes Fai. So we get even in night it becomes, well, at night it preserves the if vowel, so ifai. So we're not worried about that, but I really would like it to have some way to get that. So the way we would get, if we get, if we make it, if it's pike,
That
pike.
is a good point, Tinglish. If yeah, if we say that the megafauna live in the same sort of areas as the humans in terms of the environment that the humans evolved in, then that means that the megafauna will have essentially adapted. They'll be pre-adapted to the human presence, and so like humans won't pose as much of a threat to their existence.
Okay, I've got that. I've got it. Fiei. Fiei. That works. So if we go with a, so if we have a root that the original root is pi, this I becomes an ash, which becomes and that's close enough for me, and we'd end up with fiei, and we can have it'll be very similar roots in the others. So let me go ahead and get this pi, get a full paradigm for that. So, and it's predator class. We're good. So I will do up the predator and the herbivore classes for this one so that I can have both so you can have the juvenile and the adult have separate words. And then let's just get rid of those tabs the easy way. Apply. Okay. And export that. And we need to get to, this is day, right? Yeah, this is day. Why am I getting an error here? I will not be futzing with my sound changes right now. I don't need that form, so I'm fine. We'll fix that later. Okay. So for the juvenile, so let's so it's a little bit weird that the painted turtle has its own root, but that's what she wanted. She wanted specifically that species. And so let's get things documented.
We used to have lots of painted turtles where I used to live in New Jersey.
Okay. Maybe this meant turtle in the beginning and then it became painted, or maybe it meant like paint or color or something. It's called a painted turtle because its shell is very colorful, right?
Yeah, and by the way, the pigment for the color on the shell comes from the plants they eat, from the carotenoids.
Oh, really? Okay. But even the babies are a little bit colorful, right?
Yeah, I think the babies do eat some small amount of plant matter, but they are still primarily predatory, and it's just the preponderance of plants in their diet increases as they age.
Okay. Well, that's just fine for me. We'll let me get the where's the I continually suffer from too many tabs syndrome. Okay, so I need to document both this and this is pi, yeah, pi, and then this becomes a noun class 3, which is, and this is, I'll say juvenile painted turtle, and then we'll get another one. And well, let's get the full paradigm of that. Fake. This is one thing about conlang. Sometimes you you deal with very weird forms in the middle stage in order to get the form you want in the end stage.
Mm.
Everybody's familiar with that.
Yeah.
And let's just make a new note, and we get where am I going? Where am I going? Okay. I can't. I'm not sure you can say what. Somebody deleted their own message. Okay. People
I still
talking
haven't
about
honed the instinct to look at chat.
yeah, it's hard sometimes when you get focused on stuff. Somebody got mad during during the World Building Festival because they bought like a $1 super chat, and they left a nasty comment like, "Oh, you didn't acknowledge me." I'm like, no, it was during the it wasn't World Building Festival. It was during the recap of the Conlang Relay because like I had things like not working. I had to do weird things with how to get Zoom on screen and everything, and I just like I kind of blanked out on chat a few times. So
Mm.
okay, Snandor, thank you. New face, huh, Snandor? Yeah, multiple monitors. Yeah, I have chat on the teleprompter, which in some ways is not helpful because my teleprompter is not in a great place. It's kind of far away, but it also means that when I'm seeing chat, I am looking at you guys in chat. So, let me see. Okay, where was I? So I need to get this paradigm done. Did I already copied that. I already did all of that. So I'm on to the herbivore class version. And I need to copy this. This is a noun in the class 2. And this is adult painted turtle. And then, and we'll get the full paradigm of that. And oh, where am I? What am I doing? And there we go. Okay. Oh, mods that know to ping you. Yeah, okay, Edward. Oh, okay. That's an idea, Madeline. It would be helpful if I had I'm usually streaming solo, and it's harder that way. Like with David and Jesse or Jake and Miles, they're streaming with another person, and there's usually one person who is looking at chat all the time, right? But for me, it's just me, and if I forget, then sometimes I miss things. Uh, let me see. Okay, and now we finally need to get to the day variants of this. I think both of them can come from day because they're strictly diurnal, right? So both of these
Yeah, they
words,
don't do much during the morning except bask.
yeah, yeah, like most reptiles, right?
Yeah.
Well, as far as reptile is a useful term at all, but
I was going to say it's a good thing that you're not doing the cladistic approach because reptiles in general, but especially when you get into the early relationships of turtles, um, that whole thing is quite a big mess. Like I don't even think that the Anapsida as a concept even exists anymore. Like there used to be a separate branch of the reptile tree that was reserved for turtles, but I think that's no longer a thing.
oh, okay. So are they saying that turtles evolved independently in multiple lineages then?
No, not exactly. Basically, the like one of the most significant divisions in the well, in tetrapods in general is the number of holes in the skull. So like mammals are synapsids, so they only have one hole in the back of the skull, and
Mm-hmm.
most of what we would think of as reptiles are diapsids, so they have two holes, and then anapsids have no holes. And it was thought at one point that this was a monophyletic group that includes turtles and various other extinct groups. Like there's this group called the Paraeosaurs, which for a time were thought to be the ancestors of turtles because they also don't have any openings in the skull, and they have this weird sort of armor on their back. That the idea was that the armor kind of fused gradually into what we would think of as a turtle shell, but then at some point that hypothesis was disproven. And the Paraeosaurs are now off doing their own thing, and they're unrelated to turtles, and turtles independently lost the openings in their skull for whatever reason. And I honestly don't even really know what the consensus is at the moment, but it's all a big mess.
So I don't know if this is a good way to think about it. To me, the distinguishing fact of the distinguishing trait of the turtles is the fused rib cage into a hard shell, right? Is that is that is that something that evolved once, or did it evolve multiple times?
Um, I don't know, and at this point, I'm not sure if anyone knows. I think there is still some debate about that because there are some early tentative um, fossils that sort of that might be transitional forms to forms that have proper shells. Um, But there are loads of animals that have independently evolved turtle-like shells that have nothing to do with turtles. Like during the Triassic, there was this group called the Placidons that superficially look very similar to turtles, completely unrelated. So yeah, as I say, big
Mm.
mess.
That is fascinating. I'm just this should actually be from Middle Fay. Fay, and then if we go, this should be Middle Fay. This is riveting content, I know. Um, and then, so dawn and dusk. We'll do the adaptation to dawn first. obviously this is going to change. This is going to be to day phi, and then so partly this is just romanizing. So the e vowel I think just goes to e, and then we get phi. Oh, do a grave. Okay, phi, and then we get this. And this is another case. We'd have fiei, fiei, fiefa, fiefa. So this would be fiei.
Apparently, the shell of an adult painted turtle has the largest concentration of calcium carbonate content recorded among animals.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Surprises me.
Okay.
Sorry, not calcium carbonate, just carbonate. And I don't know enough about chemistry to know the significance of that.
Oh, this should be. Right. Wait. Let me jump back to the day. Yeah, so these actually this is actually all low tone here. So from Mandarin Fei to Don Fei. So it's sort of close. And I think all of this is another one where we can directly go straight to dusk and copy it, paste everything, because it will be the same situation. The adaptations, because even though dawn and dusk developed separate, they developed different tones in stressed syllables. When one borrows from the other, they just get the tone from the other dialect. Okay, so that's 2 down. Let's go. So we've got that. Where do we want to go? I think we might be able to get one more done if we don't dilly dally too much.
Well, I was just looking at ladybugs.
Yeah, so
That's on the
ladybugs,
list,
they're
right?
predators, and this has to come from D, and that is D, and then 王克迪, that's right. So I'm going to have to think myself whether I want that to become voiced or remain plain, because like when we use it in English, we transfer it to a voiced one for her middle name, because that's the way English speakers will perceive it. Gonna hold back my rant
Apparently, the
on
consumption
English.
of scale insects is the most basal diet of ladybirds, but aphid eating has
Yes.
evolved three separate times, and leaf eating has evolved twice.
Oh, okay. So ladybugs. I thought I only knew about aphids, so I was assuming they would be predators, but they can be herbivores.
This is the difficulty with insects because there's so damn many of them that it's very difficult to actually generalize about anything. Because when people
Yeah.
a lot of the time pick specific, like the one that really surprised me when I first learned about it were parasitoid wasps, because parasitoid wasps are it's such a specific lifestyle of laying your eggs inside another animal that
Yeah.
it just seems like it's going to be a kind of very specific specialist species that wouldn't be something particularly popular. There are almost, I think, at this point the estimate is somewhere around 500,000 species of parasitoid wasps, which means there's like 10 times more species of parasitoid wasps than there are species of vertebrates. So never ever ever
Oh, okay.
underestimate just how many insects there are.
Yes. So this is another one where phonologically it would be preferable for me to have a predator, because if you look at just my like if I just kind of show you what the endings are. So my predator endings are eek, pow, and then that. The herbivore endings are ud, pug. So this will become usually e in the singular, and this will become oo in the singular. So I probably maybe we can make a word just for aphid eating ladybugs. And yes, I I know you just said they evolved independently several times, but we don't care about that. We're just gonna do what we're gonna do, right?
I mean,
What about their activity
ladybirds,
levels?
like in general, are predominantly carnivorous, so I do think predator just does make sense as a catch-all word for ladybird.
Okay.
And for activity levels, let me just have a look. Um, yes, mostly active during the day.
Okay. Mostly active during the day. So does that mean we have some wiggle room to do it dawn and dusk if we want to, or
Um, Let me just check. Um, yeah, most species are dormant at night. So they seem to me pretty strongly, from what I'm reading at least, pretty strongly diurnal rather than crepuscular. So I would
okay.
say maybe day.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just gonna try and see what happens if we just straight up use well, it would be okay. Well, actually I'm gonna try both voiced and voiceless just to see if there's anything. Oh, I know what's gonna happen in both of these. This is there's going to be a problem, but it's a problem that we may be able to mitigate. I'll just show you what happens when I do this. Is like even into okay, in middle Fey it doesn't happen yet, but as soon as I go to day, go to the day sound changes, both of these would end up with oh no. Ah, day actually works. I did not realize that I had done it this way. So if they had gone through, it's good that they're diurnal because if it had gone through dawn or dusk, then these would become affricates. But because it's going through day, they do not. And the question is, can I justify? I need to figure out, is there any actual way for this to ever exist in dawn or dusk? Just to figure out. So the palatalization, let's see. So let me see what my affrication rule looks like. That's okay. K affrication. Oh, I have K affrication actually. Actually, I don't think it would have become that in here either. Actually, let me try something. Because there might be an even better thing to do, but I don't know if it works. If I turn all of these into the retroflex,
I appreciate the reference, Mateus. JBS Haldane, very good.
bear with me for a minute. And then if we export this, do the comparison, does this happen? No, we cannot use retroflex because retroflex does become an affricate. So we're gonna be stuck with this palatalized thing, but that's fine. Trying to think. Retroflex affrication. Okay, no, T palatalization. Consonant plus coronal TC palatalized becomes coronal tongue height palatalized. So I think I'm just gonna check here. Just gonna say, well, we can just kind of say this is a weird word that that didn't palatalize because it came from day. And that's what I'm gonna think. Do we want to so the thing is, initially, Elder Fae had a three-way system, but it lost the aspirates and became voiced and voiceless. The question is, do we want to, and this is a linguistics question, do I not have the Lexember thread up? I'll get that up as soon as we're done here. Do we want to adapt Mandarin plain stops as voiced or voiceless? Because, you know, there's arguments either way.
Hmm.
This only
I
matters for this one word.
how Shanghainese has a voiced distinction, doesn't it?
Let me see.
I'm pretty sure Shanghainese is one of the ones that now has a voicing distinction.
Let me see. Phonology. Can you give me a consonant chart? Okay. Let's go to Northern Wu. That probably would be no. So Chinese also historically had a three-way distinction, and it looks like Wu
Hmm.
maintains the three-way distinction. I do not know how exactly like those map onto the Mandarin voice and voiceless. Yeah, it never lost the voice stops. I think so. I think that the loss of voicing was a part of tonogenesis, but not all varieties lost it. It might still have an effect on the tone. Is it audio desyncing? Let me try something quickly. Yep, that's a bad desync. Thank you for letting me know. I was not. That's good. I thank you for telling me that, Snandor. That happens. I think it's a problem with my audio interface because when I replug it in, usually when I'm by myself, I'm self-monitoring and I can catch that myself. But if I do that when I'm talking to a person, I'm more likely to have crosstalk, so I don't do it. Let's see. So that is this is true, and if we went to like, I have to go ask Lee what the character is. I think for now, I'm going to actually I'm going to actually do it as voiced. The 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 reason being that the modern Chisfafu varieties have the voiceless. They might perceive at modern times like these things in this way, right? Even though we are pretending that this is an elder fey root, that kind of matters. Also, we use this name in English. It's her middle name in English, and so in English it has okay. Yes, it's the weird thing of like linguists disagree whether it's underlyingly voiced or plain because like the dominant theory has always been that English is voiceless, but there's laryngeal realism. But it feels like we could just go with voiced, and that way most people will pronounce it correctly, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
one thing about doing the tone is going to be wrong because this is I know that this is third tone, but we're ending in a low, so it's going to be like D. I can't really do anything like that without just like breaking stuff. So I mean, unless I had maybe if I had an H in here, would that do it? No, no, because the H does not cause devoicing. So we'll just have to deal with that. But we'll just make this the word. And then, so let's go back to the beginning and go document all of this. And by the time we're done with that, I don't know if we'll have time to do another one. By the way, guys, um, we were going to do this at the World Building Festival. This was one of my ideas, and then Bib was like, "George, if you have me on, that means I'm going to be streaming for 6 straight hours. Please don't." So I
Yeah, I
decided
remember
to.
when I realized that. I don't know how I
So
managed to sign up for so many things by accident. I just got, a lot of people messaging me saying, "Oh, we could do this," and I was just like, "Yeah, sure, that sounds fun. Let's do that." And then it was too late that I realized, oh wait, I'm going to be streaming for 17 and a half hours over the course of 3 days.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna since I'm gonna say the Elder Sylvan word could have meant like predatory beetle generally, and then it got reduced to ladybug. It could be different things. Um, and then we'll go Middle Sylvan. We get Deek. Um, and this would be noun. Class 3. It is interesting that all of my daughter's names ended up being in the predator class. I don't know what that says. Um, um, and then we get I'll put both variants in here just to be clear. Export. Oh, gosh. I'm being silly. Everyone loves Bib. Everybody
Since
wants
when?
to. Everybody wants to collab with Bib, is the thing.
I mean, I am always open to such things.
Yeah. Um, and then let's get the Dawn version, or the Day version, because they're diurnal. Uh, and we'll go back to this to get that information, and then get the paradigm for that. And we need to get who was it? Kat said these accusative forms are crazy. That's just because I chose a very strange form for my oblique. This like 2 syllable form, and it causes some craziness. For the whatever I'm going to call them, inanimate or non-agentive things, it is not so crazy.
Yes, Karas, the sun has set at this point.
Yeah.
It actually, yeah, it's weird how different the light levels are based on what I can see on my camera and what it actually looks like in this room.
Need to turn on some lamps or something in there.
Yeah, well, we're almost done anyway, so.
Yeah. And now you are visiting family, so I'm assuming you can't really, like, at least can't guarantee coming back next week. But at least this has been very helpful in getting me started.
Yeah, I plans are kind of up in the air at this point. We'll have to see how it goes.
And so I'm going to say that the D, whether or not, um, so these would coalesce into just one thing. D, and for the pronunciation, we'll get can I get I'm gonna be lazy and copy paste instead of trying to remember how to type like uh, tone markings. And then yeah, so this is gonna be D, and it would be D fa. Again, I don't think we need to do any adaptations. Uh, D, G, G, and D, F, G. Should be G, right? Let me double check. Yeah, it's G. It's all G. D, F, G. And then again, it's gonna be exactly the same in dusk. This is actually, it's very interesting that there are some tells in what words are loan words from another dialect. Not 100%. You can't guess it 100% accurately, but there's certain things you can tell. Like in dusk, stress syllables became a high tone. So when you have like a low tone at the end of a word, that's usually means it came from day or dawn. If there's a low tone, there are ways to get high tones. I'm not 100% sure if you can get them on stress syllables, but that's something I'll find out. But generally, at the end, you're going to get a high tone in dusk. Sometimes it's going to be a mid tone. Anyway, so we have accomplished in 2 hours. We have done 3 names. And we only did 1 patron name. So maybe I'll continue doing this next week, and uh, we'll see whether Bib can come back or not. It depends on what
Mhm.
plans are and stuff. But at least you have given me thoughts on like how to approach this and some of the caveats of okay, sometimes the juvenile and the adult have different diets. Sometimes we have
Mhm.
mixed strategies and we got to choose which one, which I kind of knew that. Or the thing about the ladybugs is like they're big clade. Most of them are predatory, but some of them are herbivores. So you gotta like
Mhm.
sort of like choose. I guess our word probably is for the predatory ladybugs, and maybe the herbivorous ones get a different, either a different route or the same route with a different, with the different class ending. I think actually it might be
Um,
interesting if you had some other herbivorous beetle that had the different class, had this route with a different class ending, and then the herbivorous ladybugs were a different route. That way it would be like more interesting. But anyway,
mhm.
we'd have to see.
I was going to ask, I mean, it's a bit late to bring this up, but if we had got around to mammals, I was going to ask, like, if there is a number one, would there be just a root that just means mammal, or do they just not concern themselves with the sort of higher level distinctions like that? And number two, if they do have a word for mammal, just throwing this out as an idea, because there's this whole notion of the mammalian bottleneck hypothesis, which is that the early mammals, the earliest mammals were nocturnal, and that helps to explain why most mammals today have relatively poor color vision because their vision evolved to be optimal in the dark, and so most mammals only retain one or two cones, whereas primates are kind of weird for having three.
That is very
So
interesting.
yeah, the root for mammal could be like sort of the default assumption for mammals, I guess, would that be that they are nocturnal, whereas in specific roots for specific types of mammals could vary.
So the thing to remember about the nocturnal and diurnal thing, not nocturnal, diurnal, crepuscular. This is just in telling me which dialect it's most likely to come from. Just because that is the region of fairy where you will encounter those creatures. So I don't think history will matter so much. I don't
Mm.
think I think that they're probably not going to be super concerned the same way they're not super concerned with cladistics generally. They're not going to be super concerned with our scientific categories.
Sure.
Maybe after contact with mortals who have or who are studying these and starting to classify them, maybe they will invent a term that's like milk giver for mammals or something like that. And then at that point they would be thinking, okay, that they would be that word would sort of probably come from like the Koine, that term would probably come from one of the Twilight dialects or from a Koineized version that's in between them, because those are those are the ones that mortals get the most contact with. They are the most connected to the prime material plane, and they are in some ways more powerful than day and night. Again, I actually have some things brewing that we'll get into in the next season about why that is. But yeah, that's what Bib was saying is like if there was a if there was like a basic route for mammal that went all the way back to Elder Fae, then then maybe that would come through night. The other thing is like fairy, or I'm calling it fairy. In D&D, it's called the Feywild. Time is weird. So like animals, like you can't my personal idea is that you can't do like actual time travel. You cannot go to the past through fairy. But the whole thing of spending a day there, could be a year or could be an hour, is true. And so there are animals in fairy that are long extinct on the prime material plane and stuff like that. That's a general thing. So that's another situation where like, okay, if mammals went through this bottleneck where they were mostly nocturnal, maybe there are a whole lot of mammals in the night regions of fairy that are all like extinct now, but they're all of those little. I think the early like mammals that you're talking about are all small burrowing creatures, kind of like mouse-like, right?
Well, a lot of mammals are still predominantly nocturnal. Like, I think
Yeah,
something like half of all mammals still are mostly active at night.
yeah,
So I still think there would be a preponderance of them um, would be associated with the night.
yes. Oh, Madeline says it's dark mode Bib now. Yes, Bib
Yeah,
is doing some reconnaissance for me in the night regions of fairy.
I don't know what is up with my camera with this. I don't know what setting it has to detect light because earlier when it was just kind of overcast, it looked like I was, being just bathed in sunlight. And now when it's like a little bit dark, it looks like I'm just cloaked in darkness for some reason. So, I don't know.
Okay. But anyway, we're over time. I need to go pay attention to my family, and you're with family
Also,
now too. So
I just got a ping that my Lexember video for today has just gone live because I've scheduled them all
yeah.
to post at 5 o'clock. So five
Oh,
o'clock my time.
okay. I just scheduled them for midnight because it's like whatever, whenever the day is. But yeah, that's cool, guys. Go check out. By the way, go check out all of the channels. So, Biblaridion, Madeline James World Builds, Let's Have a Booba, Langtime Studio, and me. We are all posting shorts every day for Lexember, and so go and also there's prompts attached to that, so you can also watch those, or you can go. We've got like community posts and social media posts listing out the prompts, so you can, if you want to do that, you can do whatever you want for Lexember. But if you want some prompts, we've got those, and I think today is the a tool for eating. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think that's
You and
that's
I
it.
did the same thing today, and we did the same thing yesterday. Because today you and I both did spoon, and yesterday we both did cauldron. So we're apparently on the same wavelength.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's I think I actually went to your tab in our after I had decided to do spoon, I went to your tab in the sheet, and I'm like, "Oh, Bib also did spoon." But it's like I did spoon cuz it's like universal. And I'm like, I don't really
Hmm.
want to at this point get too technical on like how the Fae eat and decide whether they have forks or chopsticks. But most cultures have a spoon. It's a
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
early invention and pretty universal. So
Mhm. I had the same thought.
yeah. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Bib, keep me posted if you can come next week and continue this.
I will
If
let
not,
you know.
I can do things on my own. I'll just do the research myself. But it was helpful having your expert advice. And to everyone else, thank you for watching and happy conlaying.